Okay, so I just came across this review, and it makes a pretty wild claim. It says it's found a movie so spectacularly, legendarily bad, it might actually be the worst film of the past decade.
So, what movie are we talking about? It's called War of the Worlds: Annihilation. And yes, it stars Ice Cube. And the reviewer isn't just asking, is this bad? They're basically arguing that this thing is in a whole other league of terrible.
And just to give you some perspective on the level of bad we're dealing with here, look at the company it keeps. The reviewer immediately puts it up there with the all-time terrible masterpieces, right next to Tommy Wiseau's The Room. And you know The Room. It's a film so mind-bogglingly awful that it's an absolute legend.
All right, so what's the actual story behind this cinematic train wreck?
Well, it all kicks off with let's just say, a very unique spin on the classic H.G. Wells tale.
So in this super modern 21st century take, the aliens, they don't want our water, they don't want to harvest us. Nope, they've come for what's truly precious in our time. They're here to literally eat the internet.
And who's the hero standing between humanity and this data-devouring doom? It's Ice Cube. And get this, he fights this worldwide threat almost completely from a chair, just watching the end of the world play out on a bunch of computer screens.
Okay, so how exactly does our desk jockey hero even begin to fight back? Well, this is where we get one of the weirdest setups for an action hero I think I've ever heard of.
So before the aliens even show up, what do we see Ice Cube doing with the entire might of the US government's surveillance network? He's using it to keep tabs on his pregnant daughter's snack choices. Yeah, he even confirms that she bought a muffin she wasn't supposed to have.
And this just perfectly shows you the kind of logic this movie is working with. The one guy whose entire job is to watch for threats gets a direct warning from NASA about, weird stuff happening in the atmosphere, and he just blows it off, completely ignores it. And of course the aliens show up like 5 minutes later.
Okay, and right here is where the movie goes from just being bad to something else entirely, something truly special. The characters start making decisions that are so weird, they just make absolutely no sense.
So first up, we get this supposedly super dramatic moment. Ice Cube is watching his screen, and he sees his friend, his colleague, get killed by the aliens. It's supposed to be this huge, tragic, devastating scene.
So what's his immediate gut-wrenching reaction to this tragedy? He pulls up a YouTube video about the aliens. And in the middle of this planetary crisis, he very carefully takes the time to turn on the subtitles. I'm not kidding.
This whole sequence of events led the reviewer to this absolutely hilarious theory. They think that Ice Cube's entire performance was probably filmed in one afternoon over a Zoom call, where they just told him, okay, now look surprised, now look sad, now look determined. I mean, his reactions are so generic, so totally disconnected from what's happening, that you could literally edit them into any other video. Like a cat playing the piano, a blooper reel, it would make just as much sense.
And the absurdity, it just keeps ramping up. At one point, his daughter goes into labor during the invasion. So how does he save her? He hacks some nearby Tesla and drives it remotely, steering her through the alien apocalypse with his keyboard.
But look, all of that, every weird decision we've talked about so far, it's nothing. It absolutely pales in comparison to what the reviewer calls the true masterpiece of awful, the movie's climax.
So, the heroes come up with a plan. They're gonna beat the aliens by uploading a computer virus to the government servers that the aliens are currently chowing down on. A classic cyber attack, whipped up by his hacker son and biologist daughter.
But there's one small problem. Ice Cube is already inside the super secure government building, and in those places, you're not allowed to have USB drives. So how on earth do you get a simple thumb drive past security when there's an alien invasion going on outside? Well, the solution they come up with is it's a work of art, a true masterpiece of product placement. It's this unbelievable 5-step plan that involves officially ordering a USB drive on Amazon.com, sending it over with a delivery drone, which then crashes, and then bribing a homeless guy with an Amazon gift card to fix the drone and get the plan back on track. You can't make this stuff up.
Oh, and it doesn't even stop there. The Amazon-ness continues. At one point, a character has a really serious injury, and they make a life-saving tourniquet out of a roll of Amazon-branded packing tape. So after all that absolute chaos, what's the final verdict here? I mean, how do you even begin to wrap your head around a movie like this?
Well, first, let's talk about the ending.
Our hero makes it out alive, of course. He quits his government gig and decides to use all those surveillance skills to become a watchdog, keeping an eye on the government with his little family of hackers.
But maybe the reviewer's most helpful contribution is a very simple 3-rule drinking game for anyone who's actually brave enough to watch this thing. You drink every time Amazon or one of its products gets mentioned, you drink every time Ice Cube flies a drone, and you drink every time he slams his fist on the desk.
Now, a word of warning. Those rules might sound simple, but the reviewer promises they are devastatingly effective. Trying to follow them for the full 90 minutes is, let's just say it's a very, very risky move.
And really, this whole insane breakdown just leaves us with one big question, right? At what point does a movie stop being just bad and cross over into something else? At what point does a pile of strange, bizarre, and maybe commercially driven decisions accidentally come together to create a true masterpiece of bad cinema?